Don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Happy watching.
Ever since the Honda Insight and the Toyota Prius appeared almost 25 years ago, we've become accustomed to hybrids that sacrifice performance so that they could sip fuel as reluctantly as if it were hemlock. Sure, we know that Formula One cars have been using hybrid powertrains for years, and we've seen the hybrid hypercars produced in handfuls by Ferrari, McLaren, and Porsche, purchased by 0.1%ers, and destined to slowly deteriorate in static collections as they accumulate value like Picassos. But where are the performance hybrids for the rest of us? Even Chevy's Corvette E-Ray, quick as it is, simply adds an electric motor to power its front wheels. Porsche aims to change that up and is now jumping into the game with the 2025 911 Carrera GTS, not only a dedicated performance hybrid but the vanguard of the 992.2, the current 911 generation receiving its mid-cycle upgrade. Instead of the twin-turbocharged 3.0-liter 9A2B6 used on the 992.1, the new GTS gets the 9A3B6 engine. It displaces 3.6 liters, uses an electrically enhanced turbocharger, and is supplemented by a powerful electric motor/generator tucked into the housing of the 8-speed PDK dual-clutch transmission. Porsche calls this the T-Hybrid, which stands for Turbo Hybrid, to distinguish it from the company's PHEVs, dubbed E-Hybrids. Though increasing in size from 3.0 to 3.6 liters and with maximum boost rising from 18.6 to 26.1 psi, the new engine's power only increases by 5 ponies from 473 to 478. And peak torque rises not at all from 420 pound-feet. The culprit is Lambda 1 engine designer's shorthand for a perfectly balanced ratio of fuel and air used at all engine operating points. With no rich mixture available during high boost, combustion temperatures rise to a point where ignition timing must be dramatically retarded to control detonation. The upside is less smog emission at full power. The 9A3B6 also gets a massive redesign, with the goal of making it lower from the top of its intake manifold to the bottom of its plastic oil pan, and generally less bulky. This is to make room for the power control electronics for the various hybrid elements that sit above the engine. This comes with a complete repackaging of the flat six with the single, bulky electrically boosted turbo on the right and the large muffler on the left, with the catalytic converter and particulate filter in between. Another change is the elimination of the accessory drive. The transmission-mounted motor serves as both the starter and generator. The air conditioning compressor is now driven by a 400-volt motor via the high-voltage hybrid circuit, and the water pump has been moved inside the engine and driven by an extension of the oil pumps. The various changes have shaved 40 pounds from the weight of the engine. The single turbocharger is a Borg-Warner unit with a 27-horsepower electric motor sandwiched between the compressor and exhaust sides of the turbo. This motor greatly reduces turbo lag at low revs. For example, at 2000 RPM with a closed throttle, the old GTS required over 3 seconds to achieve full boost when the throttle was floored, while the new GTS does it in slightly less than 1 second, and that's while achieving considerably higher pressure. This new electric turbo has no wastegate. Instead, at high RPM, the motor turns into a generator and harvests up to 15 horsepower, in the process of providing enough drag to keep the turbo from overspeeding. That electricity feeds into the electric motor and supplements total power from about 5,700 RPM at full throttle. The final power-producing element is the electric motor/generator fitted to the 8-speed PDK, which replaced the 7-speed transmission at the 992's launch for exactly this eventuality. The motor can provide a maximum of 54 horsepower and about 110 pound-feet of torque. Power rises from 478 to 533 horses, and torque swells from 420 pound-feet to 449. Perhaps more important, it delivers its 110 pound-feet to supplement engine output at low revs even before the electric turbo can spool up. A 1.5 kilowatt-hour, estimated, net, lithium-ion battery operates at a nominal 400 volts. It weighs about feet to reduce full power exhaust emissions. In this case, peak boost rises from 12.0 to 17.4 psi higher than the 992.1 Carrera S. To provide this much airflow, the engine gets the larger turbochargers used on the previous S and GTS, as well as the bigger intercooler from the 911 Turbo. Peak power rises modestly, from 379 to 388 horsepower, still at 6,500 RPM, and peak torque is unchanged at 331 pound-feet. Several new wheel designs are offered in staggered 19, and 20-inch diameters, as well as in the 20s and 21s used on the GTS. Tire sizes are the same except for the rear of the GTS, where the width increases from 305 mm to 315 mm to cope with that model's increased power. The car rocketed out of corners with instantaneous throttle response, no surprise at high RPM, and displayed very powerful brakes and tremendous grip. We hit an indicated 155 miles per hour on the longest straight of roughly 2,200 feet. Pricing, however, has been released. The base Carrera now costs $122,095, up about $6,000 from before. The GTS rises over $14,000 to $166,895, no surprise given its additional technology. The convertible version adds an additional $13,300, while all-wheel drive, on the GTS only, for now, adds $7,800. And then there is the dizzying array of options to take you tens of thousands higher. We've grown accustomed to, if not comfortable with, such nosebleed pricing. But the reality is that these 911s provide a unique driving experience, which Porsche manages to maintain, while adding more performance with every incremental generation. We look forward to driving these models and figuring out how to afford one.
Thank you for subscribing and liking, commenting. See you in the next video.